Hello, once again, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're listening. And thank you so much for tuning into the
The
Mobility
Mobility
Bros.
Bros!
I'm Coach Cliff, as you guys know. And if you don't, thank you. My name's Coach Cliff, and I am here with my brother and co-host, Ron Hylton. And we'll be covering today, as always, athletic mindset, mobility, pain reduction, the thoughts and processes of practitioners, and the mindsets of our clients and our members. Today is a special day. We have an amazing guest, an extraordinary human being, Dr. Stephen Ezra West. And with him, we're going to be touching points on high performance fitness, regeneration, hormone health, and we'll even talk a little bit about that spicy Super Bowl, whether you liked it or not, but more about the athletes and what they go through, not just about the flags and how that whole referee thing goes. Okay, I want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Stephen Ezra Miller so you know the quality of this man and what he's been able to do for humanity. Dr. Ezra is a top research developer and teacher of the causes, prevention, and reversal of the most painful, crippling, and killer diseases, such as COVID-19, heart disease, and cancer. He is one of the world's most knowledgeable, inspirational, life-changing health and empowerment experts. With 30 years of experience, focused primarily on applying psychology of mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual healing and empowerment. He has empowered countless people while speaking throughout the world and consistently generating legendary success and empowerment of audiences as he performs many live demos of more than a dozen new techniques, including his exclusive instant mass healing. Dr. Stephen Ezra West, how are you today?
Fantastic. Thank you, Joseph. That's there's a lot there in that bio. It doesn't surprise me if anyone gets tripped on some of these words like physiology of mental, emotional, physical principles. You know, that's physiology means functionality, but it's a bigger word that sounds more professional. But basically, cellular physiology is the basis of all physiology, and that's just functionality because we're all made up of cells. And my father discovered the engine of the cells that generates the power for cells to work, for the eyes to see, the brain to think, the heart to beat, all the cells to do what they're supposed to do. And he wrote formulas with his physics background, what sets it off, how to turn it back on. And, I didn't know how anybody could keep up with him. He would talk so fast about some of the things that he would say. I'm going to do my best not to speak too quick. I'm very excited with what we have to share with you today. And I'm an expert in areas of stem cell technology. I produced a stem cell technology in, about 28, 29 years ago now. This summer will be 29 years ago. So that's how long I've been in that field. That came through an accident where I had my PCL ligament ripped out of its top insertion, pulled a piece of bone out with it. And this was a summer that I was preparing for a big football season for a team that ended up taking a bowl game, similar, it was college level, but similar to this professional level, what we just experienced last night. It sort of brings a whole bunch of stuff back for me. I had my life flash before my eyes. I know what it's like for an athlete to go through a major injury and not know if he's going to get through another season. The doctors told me that I would, it would take at least 6 months just to recover. And I looked at him and I said, I got a camp in 6 weeks and I'm going to be doing everything I've done before for a week straight, drilled on cue, doing backflips on the ground, facing pyramids that are 2.5 high, all of that, partner stunning and we were taking first place in nationals every year during this period. So we're very competitive with all that. And in 6 weeks, I was doing everything that I was doing before. All the doctor would say is that I was way ahead of the ball game. he said it wouldn't be possible also to reattach a ligament without surgery, and I did that. I knew the only thing I could think of was shown to me when I took my petition with my life flashing before my eyes. I actually took it to God when they said it would be impossible. I believe with God anything is possible, and I was shown some things. Just so I give credit where credit's due. That's just part of what I like to do with the show. And everything we think, say, and do, it is about mindset. It's how things are done that make them what they are. And I want to talk about, you bring up the game and what happens when you got an injury. How could the quarterback of the KC Chiefs just go in a dead sprint all of a sudden, like we've never seen in the whole game? Well, the rest of the game, everything that he didn't take a big dose of glycogen. No adrenaline, no glycogen rush, and he actually trains for instant glycogen rushes. He's not, with that ankle injury, it's not doing the sprinting. He was in pain after that. It's not that it didn't catch up with him, but during this process, when you have superhuman activity happening from adrenaline, when you have fast twitch being activated, when you're conditioned where you can turn on glycogen instantly, that's the fuel for fast twitch activity. And it's where grandmothers can lift up a car with a baby under it.
Right.
And if you look at the math and you find out how many gallons it takes of water to equal 1 gallon in molecular weight to glycogen, it should blow your mind. When my father saw that, as he was a chemistry teacher, he slammed the book down and ran out of the room, said, "That's impossible." The numbers were so big, and now we know that there's a lot bigger numbers than that in science, but the key to understanding the power of science is in the numbers. I had a friend, recently send me an article showing 771% greater HGH release for sprinters that are conditioned sprinters, what they can get when they go on a sprint. But there's more X runners every year than there are runners because of all the injuries. And most people don't know, when you really look at that, if you have 100% plus 800%, that gives you this 9 times more is what it actually would translate into. So that 771, that's more like 8.71 times more HGH release when you look at it to the math as how many times more. And we get 25 times more HGH release with a shortcut that the premier trainer of the whole NFL, Rick Burkholder, who's also the trainer for the KC Chiefs, and a lot of the, we got players also for Philadelphia on this technology, which started 60 years ago. Basically in the 60s, it started in Japan. And there's a company called Katsu that dialed in the width of the bands for the size of the limb. So for the arms, the width is smaller. And there's a smaller band than this, and there's a bigger band than these. But basically there's different sizes for different size people. And they also dialed in the air pressure, to how much to put in. Now, they're basically using a tourniquet because it was a single air chamber that they've been using. And the United States inventor decided to add a multiple air chamber to that, the same numbers that were dialed in for the main company in Japan. And all of a sudden, they've got the only design proving not to increase arterial pressure or send a back pressure to the heart. So this is the one that is the safest and most effective. It's the most comfortable. It's the one that works the best too. And this is the one that all the studies are being done on now. Or even a 10-minute walk with seniors, they can get a significant HGH release that's normally impossible to get just with a 10-minute walk. And this is where this is all of a sudden, their chemistry in their blood, their brain's sensing they got a glycogen release. They got fast twitch activity. Their brain thinks that they just did a bunch of superhuman activity, like an Olympic athlete. They train for an hour and a half to 2 hours, like an Olympic athlete trains, to get the fatigue, to get the chemistry of failure, basically, You got to go below 30% oxygen to working muscles is what the very strong science makes very clear. You got to dip below 30% oxygen to working muscles, not to the brain, not to the heart, any other internal organs. So I think it's more dangerous, the mask that people put on while they work out. Yeah, it's more dangerous, right? What's that doing to the brain?
Just cutting off oxygen.
This does as soon as we put these on, you get a nitric oxide release from the working muscles that are instantly going from slow twitch to fast twitch. Part of the chemistry the brain's looking for is nitric oxide levels in the blood. And this is a big buzz right now. Health industry across the board is nitric oxide. There's a lot of new activity, a lot of new products coming out. It's a big trend right now. Nitric oxide. It doesn't matter. We all have it. It doesn't matter how much we have. It's stored in the blood vessel wall. If it's not being released in the blood, it doesn't do us any good. So we get a major nitric oxide release. Part of it is lactic acid release. A big part of it is we get the fuel is glycogen. And well, glycogen is made up of ATP, which is the main fuel for the engine, the sodium potassium pump. And when you release the glycogen, when it's released, you get a whole bunch of ATP that's ready without any the oxygen. It already took that to create the ATP and a bunch of that to create the glycogen. So it's a bunch of basically jet fuel. This is where superhuman strength comes from. It's like a small earthquake happening. The body can turn into steel, and miracles of survival happen because literally bodies can turn into steel. And strength and endurance tests, it can really amaze you what we're capable of. Like I think that's part of how someone can pick up, and a lot of pain relief happens during this period too. The nitric oxide clears out inflammation, which is the main aspect of terrain theory, whether there's inflammation or not. That's a healthy environment versus a disease environment of the cells, whether there's inflammation or no inflammation. No inflammation, the cells have oxygen, and with oxygen, there's zero pain. When the cells are in that environment where they have oxygen, pain just disappears. That's one of the easiest things in the world to get rid of is someone's pain if you understand the process. My father could have had the greatest pain relief clinic in Arizona where he got started with his business if he had just treated people. But he got into teaching, and he said it takes the fun out of it. Once I know I can teach people how to do it for themselves, if I can't keep doing that, I quit.
Let's stop right there.
That's where it's really fun.
There's so much that was just dropped off. Like rewind, re-listen if you need to. Take out your notes because Dr. Stephen Ezra Miller just dropped so many gems. So many gems. Thank you.
West.
Dr. Stephen Ezra West. Why did I say
It said Miller. I think it said Miller.
But that's okay because maybe I got some kind of Miller energy today. I don't know. It's not a bad name.
No, I think it's a name of somebody in a book or somebody in a movie or something.
Stephen Miller Band. I'm actually friends with a Stephen Miller in Florida who's connected to the city, like a mayor there. And anyway.
So Ron, I want to say hi to Ron. Ron, how are you doing? You are smiling from ear to ear, hearing about HGH and ATP. How are you feeling? How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I feel like I'm back in school, man. I feel like it's amazing. I love the science and what you're talking about, Dr. Stephen. Is a lot of that reflection of like the fight or flight response, like what you're talking about?
Well, what I'm talking about, like fight or flight, is this, there's different things. If we get something happening out of fear, we get a cortisol release, which blocks human growth hormone. We need the human growth hormone to regenerate. That's, according to Harvard, the most powerful regenerative substance that our cells can produce. And all the stress in our life, whatever causes stress, you get a cortisol release. So the athletes that push themselves really hard, like the traditional old-time way of training, NFL players and Olympic athletes, well, they have to really hit the heavyweight, high-intensity exercise. And this doesn't eliminate all of that, what they need to do to train to be an Olympic athlete. But what we're doing is we're saying, hey, we need to show you how to get a better hormone release with less than half the time and half the weight, and still get a better hormone release, and that'll transform your body faster and easier. We had 16-year-olds doing this, a group with heavy weight versus a group with light activity with these bands. And in the light activity group actually had greater strength increases than the heavyweight group. And so, you know, kids are doing it. People aren't going to be able to compete who aren't involved with this technology, because it's taken the whole sports field by storm. I know this is something that a lot of people that are going to be listening to this, it may be their first time hearing it, but it's been a long time coming. And a few years ago, the technology finally got really good with the multiple air chamber design. It was actually about 4 years ago now that happened. So, and they tried to launch before lockdowns. That didn't work out very well with what happened with lockdowns. So the president of the company just produced a bunch of resource videos that you can make available, you know, through the description of this if you like. But yeah, there'll be a way where we can point people. There's a ton of resources, a ton of science. Like I was talking about percentages and how, you know, they're talking about like 8.71 times is what that 771% greater HGH release for sprinters equals. And we're getting 25 times without creating such a danger. We can shortcut it, the training. We can get it faster and easier, safer, and get a 25 times greater HGH release with less than half the time, half the weight, still get better results. And that's about 24,000% greater HGH release is what that translates into in a percentage. Now this 2,400 is what it is, 2,400% greater HGH release versus 771%, which is what the sprinters are getting. That's 25 times more HGH production is what it means. We're getting 25 times. This is when we're using the word times, it's way more powerful and it's easier for people to understand too, in my opinion. So what this is a total game changer, and it's not just HGH. Within that chemistry, that once the brain registers what's happened, in 30 minutes, HGH starts flowing from the pituitary, and the TSH starts flowing too. That turns on the thyroid gland for metabolism. So people start losing weight like crazy. If anybody's ever struggled, it's been because of the thyroid gland. And after the age of 22, these hormones start taking a nosedive, and they level off to about nothing until we die. And we can just shoot them right back up to where they're supposed to be. What this means. We don't have to, these are the factors that created, like there's neural factors, BDNF, that created the brain and nervous system when we're in the womb. And it's been published on what it does with neuropathy, for example. And there's vascular factors with these bands that take deformed vessels with varicose veins and restructure them to their healthy structure. The study's already been done.
So Dr. Stephen, could you go a little bit more into the bands? The bands designed? Just go a little more in depth about what the bands do. I know you're mentioning some of it. I'm not familiar with the bands. I would love to hear more about if you can show us what that's all about.
Yeah. So a blood pressure cuff is a single chamber, and it doesn't take much pressure for it to be really uncomfortable. And anybody who's ever had a blood pressure cuff on, they know what that means. So I just put this on, and this is millimeters of mercury pressure. So we know exactly how much pressure we're putting into the band. And if you look at that, within a few pumps, it's already over 300. Now I'm going to take it down to 3. And then that's where I work out my arms. I put more pressure on my legs because they're bigger limb and a bigger band. They can handle more pressure. But that's being very aggressive. And I already knew exactly how much pressure to actually strap the band on. I didn't put it too tight. So this for me is actually very comfortable. I can get a really good pump in the arms and legs within 3 to 5 minutes and be totally done with the deepest burn that my brain can stand.
Wow, okay.
With light activity.
Oh, wow, okay.
Now, power, like strongman events that women also compete in, when they take 1,000 pounds and start walking with it, that's an instant glycogen rush, nitric oxide rush. The people who are really professionals at doing this, they know a lot about the chemistry that I've just been talking about. And that's where we get the hormone release from. It's from the failure when you use up the oxygen. So this is basically doesn't shut the oxygen supply off. In between, and I can put my finger in here, and in between each of the air chambers, there's giving the circulation a break all the way around. Unlike the blood pressure cuff, it's more like a tourniquet, equal pressure all the way around. This doesn't do that.
So
and
you can
the
leave
blood
that on
pressure
for a good amount
cuff
of time and
can stop blood flow. This cannot stop blood flow. We don't want to stop it. We just want to turn the dial down at a safe level, slow it down. And so this is going to slow down the return at a safe level. So it's easier. It's like pulling fuel out of the fuel line while you keep the engine running. It doesn't have, you don't really have to hit the throttle to make it fail. It just fails faster and easier because you're pulling fuel out of the fuel line while you're keeping the engine running. So it makes it easier for you to dip down. What did I say? You got to go below 30% oxygen. So I call this, in the industry, it's called BFR. And that blood flow resistance training, when I first heard it, it made me want to run out the door. I thought it was crazy because I'm a circulation expert. And why would anybody want to create a, anaerobic environment? That means low oxygen.
Right.
Well, anaerobic is what's necessary to get the hormone release, and this is very temporary. So within 3 to 5 minutes, if I can get the burn to all I can stand with the biceps and triceps, I can take the pressure off and take these out, take these off, and it's done just that fast. I just hit this little valve here, that just released the pressure that fast. As soon as I push that in, it's a one-way check valve until I push that in, lets the air out, and takes the band off just with the Velcro, and it's done. So I never thought that, here's another example of what people are using. I never thought that a little band like this could do anything for me. You know, when they actually first introduced me to this, someone put me on a three-way call with Mike DeBoard, who's the most knowledgeable person on the science of this technology. And I had a great phone call with him, good conversation. I thought, man, I maybe learned something new from this guy. And they gave me a website and I took a look at it and this is what I saw. And I thought, man, people will try to, sell anything from stuff that comes from China nowadays. And I just shut the website right off and kept my life. Had a busy day. Every day is a lot of things to do. So I've been like that for a really long time. So anyway, it came closer to this date where he'd offer me a free pass to the first national conference. And I just happened to be in the neighborhood with where my natural travels took me. I was about 30 minutes away. So I decided to look at the website again, and I started actually watching the video, and I was like, these are the bands, not those that they were really talking about, right? I'm like, oh yeah, that makes more sense. Maybe there's something I could learn here. I watched this 5-minute video. I'm like, that's right. Those are the and I was actually first introduced to this technology in the 90s by somebody who'd spent time in Japan, who was also an athlete who was going to compete in the Olympics when Kennedy boycotted the Olympics. But that the technology wasn't very good. We were basic tourniquet designs, which is what everybody else is using in the industry still. So it just finally got to the point where this is the only one that's proven not to increase arterial pressure or send a back pressure to the heart, which is really important. For some, it's going to be much more important than others. But inmates in prison, they'll use makeshift designs, basic tourniquet designs. And I found out about this from a brother of mine who was a prison guard in Arizona. and I have a lot of cousins on the force in Arizona. Somehow he got to be a guard for a while, my brother, and he learned about it from the inmates, the ones that were getting ripped, that were getting the strongest and transforming their bodies the fastest, which is a matter of survival in prison.
Yeah. Well, I worked, believe it or not, I'm a retired corrections officer. I worked in for 20 years. So
wow.
I worked in a prison system here in Connecticut for 20 years. So yeah, I can
How
understand
long ago?
that. Say again?
How long ago?
Oh, I retired December of 2018. So I got
Wow.
in when I was 23
That's long
years
enough.
old.
That's
Yeah,
long
I got
enough.
in. Yeah.
And
So
that's
I can
recent
understand. I
enough.
haven't. We never gave them the things for tourniquets and stuff, but as far as what they would do, as far as going to failure with strength training and the things they came up with as far as getting stronger.
They grab the top of the arm and simulate just by grabbing the top of the arm and doing this too.
Absolutely.
But we got an artery on the inside, right?
Yeah.
So that's just much more dangerous, right?
What I've experienced too, so I know within the rehab world, what's starting to become popular is flossing. So where they take an actual a band, which I wish I had one up here, and they wrap it around really tight, around a little bit of blood flow restriction therapy, and then you actually can grasp the fascia. They'll have you do like to release something with tennis or golfer's elbow. Well, they'll wrap around the arm, and they'll make you do like anywhere from 15 to 20 bicep curls, and then unwrap it, and then I don't know. First I didn't believe in it, and then I took a course in it, and then I was like, this is for real. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Like one truth doesn't replace another. I didn't understand what the value was of going into an anaerobic environment, but as far as when it comes to hormones, that's like the master key right there. The more you do that, the more you go into failure, the more you're creating the nitric oxide is actually a blood thinner. So it actually increases circulation throughout the whole system, the way that it works. And it knocks inflammation out quite well. I mean, I've seen people with headaches just throwing these bands on them within 3 to 5 minutes, take them off, and they say, my headache's gone. Wow. Just that fast. Wow. That's high blood pressure in the head, and the muscles around the arteries and veins, they contract in the lack of oxygen and inflammation environment. Like all muscles contract with inflammation, lack of oxygen. So that's part of increasing the blood pressure in the head, especially when that happens around the arteries and veins. Well, the nitric oxide gets those muscles relaxed around the arteries and veins, makes the pipe bigger, so that improves blood circulation. It's also a thinner that increases the circulation. So it actually is like the law of lift that defies the law of gravity, without which we wouldn't see airplanes flying around. And so there's a miracle, some laws to help defy others. So I started learning about it, and the first national conference actually is where I really took my first big deep dive into the science for 3 days straight. Just listened to Dr. Mike DeBoard. Again, he's the most knowledgeable person on the planet when it comes to understanding the science behind it. So that is, there's magic, there's miracles that happen, and the hormones, what they're capable of. I mentioned some of them are part of what created the brain. There are hormones for every tissue type. There are skeletal factors that help create the skeletal structure when we're in the womb without any load. We created skeletal structure. And it increased bone density. It wipes out osteoporosis, which is low bone density. And they heal broken bones faster. And if an athlete breaks an arm, we put it on the other arm and the legs, and we don't put it on the broken arm. And it'll still create the hormone release that heals the broken arm faster.
That's sick.
So same thing with the legs. We don't have to work the broken leg. We just put the band on the other leg and the arms, work those just to create the chemistry in the blood. And once those hormones get in the blood, they go throughout. It's all downstream from there.
They go everywhere. That's amazing.
Everywhere, every cell. So you get a full cocktail. It's not just a 25 times greater release of HGH. we get a full cocktail, like a grand orchestra symphony of regeneration from a whole branch of our tree of life that produces all the fruit we call hormone. And they are significant in their power and ability. It's not the only branch of our tree of life. There's a lot of complexity. There's DNA side of the equation, which I am quite knowledgeable about too. I don't know everything about everything. I've had about, I can say that I have at least 4 people that listen to me globally. How's that?
Good.
Is that awesome?
It's awesome.
I'm glad you're laughing. I heard that joke actually last night. I wanted to fit it in here.
That was great. That was great.
Someone had this beautiful painting on a video that I saw, and they said that they had like 4 global watchers on their podcast. You look at how many watched, there was like thousands and thousands on that video alone. It's hilarious.
Oh, it's too good. That's too good. So listen, we've talked a lot about regeneration, hormone health, and high performance. Like we touched all those things during this conversation. And I want people who may not be in the industry and may not have the understanding of the deep complexities that we do as we talk about the numbers and how we get 25 times greater than a sprinter. For someone who's like a 78-year-old grandmother who has a hip pain and she just wants to be able to take their grandkids and great grandkids on vacation and make it in Spain and just and be able to walk around Rome and things like that, but is so concerned about the hip pain they're contemplating replacement surgery and all the damage that would do. How would you speak into their life to help them understand the complexities of this in a really simple way?
I've seen countless people's lives when it comes to people in rehabilitation from injuries, whatever. I've seen over and over again miracles happen. With me, one of the first things I notice is strength increasing. Within 10 days, doing a 5-minute routine 6 times within a 10-day period, I lost all the fat on my upper thigh all the way around. And my skinny jeans, which I wasn't really fitting in anymore, all of a sudden were baggy.
Oh, wow.
And that wasn't killing myself. I wasn't spending a half an hour or anything like that, even in the gym. I was using actually isotonics most of the time without any weight at all. Using my own, doing air squats, doing some very, very basic stuff. And I can create more tension. It takes more mind, but it's more, you get better neuromuscular ability when you practice the neuromuscular side of things. I can flex my biceps and triceps with my mind more than this little band could do. But when people put these on, they're surprised at what a little 10 to 15 pound weight does. We got NFL players trading their 90s in for a set of 10s and 15s.
I love it.
And getting better results as far as hormone release goes. And it's blowing their mind, the level of the burn that they're feeling. And that's what people are going to notice the most. I know that I gave you a demo first time we met in Las Vegas. That was the beginning of July, I think, last year. And you were so, well, tell us.
I was blown away. All right, so we did a demo. We got out of the conference. We were in a conference room, and he brought his backpack and was like, "You ready?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah, let's do it."
Okay.
So he strapped 2 on my arms and 2 on my legs, and had me go up and down steps. And it just started. It was like a nice staircase. It wasn't like a huge staircase, but it was a good sized staircase, right? Like a floor. And the fatigue that I started to feel just from walking up and down steps and power walking up and down steps, you can definitely feel the fatigue in your thighs and the fatigue in your biceps. And then we did some.
Did you get up and down that staircase twice? Is that what it was?
I think my 3rd time was just mentally trying to be better than I wanted to, because 2 just felt ridiculously fast, but the burn was so fast. This all took 10, 12 minutes. This wasn't like a very long time at all. I did about 50 bicep curls with a band that was probably anywhere from 5 to 12 pounds, the red band. And
Yeah.
I was burnt out at 20, and I just tried to push through. And then I
I
did
usually
tricep
have people
over,
shoot for 90.
and I did tricep overheads. He was like, do 100. I did about 50, and I was burnt out at about 20 or 30 of the overhead tricep extensions.
With the
Then
traditional resistance bands?
just a traditional resistance band, just
Okay.
20. It wasn't even a 20-pound resistance band. It was a very light resistance band. That. And then he said, all right, now wall sit. And when I did the wall sit, that, like, I could do a minute and a half. You know what I mean? I do wall sits all the time with my clients. I could do a minute and a half. But when I did the wall sit, bro, it was like just the breathing. I just had to focus on breathing. And my legs were trembling. And the only difference was the bands and the restriction that the bands were creating and the blood flow that it was creating. But once they took them off, I got this burst of energy. I really had this,
Wow.
like, not only did I have this burst of energy, I was like enthused by it. I was really like bewildered by it, but I was exhausted because physically my muscles were tired, but my mind was very clear. And I just had a really great burst of energy. And that might be the ATP release and everything that was stored up in my muscles, the nitrous, all the chemicals and hormones that were stored up in my muscles that are finally getting to circulate through my body. It was a really wild experience, but it was a really fun experience because I've never experienced something like that took a short amount of time to get me to sweat the way I was sweating, to get me to feel fatigue. I felt like I did like a 250 leg press on a sled by the time I stood up. My legs were,
And the leg press,
dead.
that without the wear and tear of the heavy weight.
Wow.
Yep. And so I also remember I have
interesting.
I have a torn MCL that I recovered from, and I had a torn Achilles tendon on the same leg and was not affected by it at all.
Wow.
It did not.
The glycogen is the fuel for fast twitch activity, and you have to have slow twitch failure before you get fast twitch activity. And the more fast twitch failure you get, especially the second phase where you get the strongest chemistry we're talking about, you only get that where what you're going to feel, what everybody's going to feel when this is happening, when this chemistry is being created, when it's strong, they're going to feel the burn. The stronger the burn, the stronger this chemistry is. And some people have a mental capacity that they can go into a deeper burn than others. And I asked you to go into the deepest one you could stand. And it didn't take much, especially when you did that wall sit. But this is what is, there's processes that can recycle ATP and glycogen back to ATP and glycogen. We found out there's a process that can recycle oxygen. The radical from that is oxygen missing an electron. They're called superoxide. I call it oxygen radical, but I like to speak English. There's a process that can recycle that right back to oxygen 1 million times per second. And I'm not going to get into the details of that with this conversation, but it's very powerful math. And with one molecule of a substance that we're born producing, we can do 1 million per second oxygen back. Well, there's things that recycle things back, but there's also something that gets the body producing more of this fuel. It's created in the mitochondria. And this is another big buzz. People want to get healthier mitochondria because that's what is the fuel factory. It's like, I call it the fuel injector for the real engine is the sodium potassium pump, which is what that fuel turns on, that my father discovered, and he named it that. So I know a little bit about what I'm talking about here. I've been raised with it. I was my father's top student in all this. Well, what we found out, in order to create more mitochondria throughout our cells, we're meant to go into pushing ourselves into failure, but now we can do it without risk of injury. And now even seniors can figure out how to start getting the regeneration factors, their hormone factors, that they normally haven't been able to without risking the injury. So it's really amazing that we get more mitochondria being produced throughout all of our cells. And we mentioned the 8, 0.7, it's about, when you get 25 times instead of the 8.5 times, we're talking about a 3 times greater HGH release than sprinters get without all of that effort, without risking the injury. Again, there's more runners every year than there are actual runners because of all the injuries involved. And if they produce more hormones, then they can actually ease into those exercises a lot faster and easier. There's so many success stories that we have with athletes that'll blow your mind. I'm not going to talk about the king of the NBA. Everybody knows who he is and what he's doing with this. I'm not going to mention his name.
He just
Everybody
broke a
knows.
record.
But
Yeah, he did.
we know what he's doing, and I'm not going to mention his name, but I've seen photos of him training and using this technology. But let's not mention his name.
If you think you know what his name is, go ahead and put it down in the chat below. We'd love to see what you guys think about that.
We can do that. No problem. We're not gonna get in trouble with that one.
No, we didn't say anything. It's the community. They're just connecting with us and communicating with us. It's been an outstanding amount of information. And your golfers that are in their 60s and 70s that have been looking for a solution without having to put all that demand on their body because of old injuries or potential injuries or the potential pain that they're currently in. For your athletes that are looking to separate the ego lifting from really getting their posture right, getting their hormones right, being able to provide a better solution for their movement capabilities. For your men and your women who are struggling with their sex hormones, for people who are looking to provide better life.
He's like,
there's so many things, and it's not demanding for people who are super busy traveling all the time and don't want to lug a huge amount of equipment with them. I'm not sponsored by this yet, but I'm looking to connect and build and make this a part of Fitness Essentials, simply because my clientele has ranged from 8-year-old ice skaters to 88-year-old survivors of the Holocaust. And I've worked across the board with all of them for pain reduction, for mobility access, for the ability to get stronger, more balance, and more stability. And the clientele that I have now, they're all turning 60, 70, and 80 years old, my current clientele. And as I move into this corporate business location, where I'm going to be exposed to many different personalities with high stress levels because they're having to get back into work and having to overcome the lockdowns and what COVID kind of conditioned us and all the habits that were created by sitting in your office and Zoom calls and all the things, to now traveling, commuting to work, having to be in the office, having to find a way to be productive, having someone over your back again, and bringing joy, bringing a sense of relief, bringing a sense of fun and a sense of easing into and getting back into exercise and a better habits. There's no way I can see myself not introducing this technology, because it's life-changing technology. It helps you understand how to be mobile. It takes away, I can really just work on form, posture, kinesiology, proper mobility movements, with your squats, with your lunges, with your pushes and your pulls and your gait and all of those things, and have you for 5 to 10 minutes warm up or be active with this technology, knowing that I'm benefiting your hormones, that I'm helping promote ATP, that I'm helping promote positive lactic acid and all the things that's going to happen to the body in order for your body to heal itself and grow itself, that I'm even potentially recovering old injuries, repairing scar tissue, all while doing it in the safest way. Swimmers can use this, right? Because it can go in water as well.
Yeah, we've got the only 100% waterproof band, and there's stories with swimmers, volleyball players. I know you're a coach, right? And that coaching side of this is such a big key. We have so many different modules that we've created for different types of people and athletes. We have a guy here in Vegas called the Las Vegas Golf Coach. And I remember the first time I put these bands on him about a year ago, all he did was practice his golf swing. He didn't do any of the other things that I asked him to do. There's something he does every day. He practices this golf swing so many times a day, right? And he wanted to feel what would happen to those same muscles, the certain way he moves his legs as he rolls his hips through the swing. he started feeling this right away in those muscles. He started feeling them engaging in a way he hadn't felt in years. And he's like pushing, he's pushing, he's in his 70s now. But now his distance on his swing is back to what it was when he was in his 30s.
My
So now he can hit the long ball
Dang.
when he goes and drives the ball. The young guys aren't able to keep up with him anymore.
And that's what I hear most from my clients who just want to be out there, who are frustrated with their game, who don't want to take on more handicaps. They just want to play well, and they're in their head and their back pain kicks in and they're having all these things come up and they're questioning where they are. And I'm trying to encourage them, and we're doing, the best we can with the tools we have. So encouraging their core strength, working on their rotation, their mobility, their transverse plane of motion, making sure that they're not asymmetrical, all those things, yes. But to add a value of what this technology can do from the inside out and how it can reactivate and engage muscles, it's de-aging people. It's amazing what it's doing. It's almost unbelievable, but the testimonials and the science speaks for itself. And that's what I love most about what you're doing. And this is just one very small piece of many different things you're doing, right, Dr. Stephen?
Yeah, it's fun.
Do you currently work with professional athletes at the moment?
Well, I'm actually working with a lot of coaches who work with the athletes.
Okay, cool.
So, like, I'm the one that got Gaylord, who's the Las Vegas golf coach, gave him his first demo. And I just was at another event that he was at with Dr. Mike. And it's multiple events like that where we get to rub shoulders and do things like in big public events. So it's fun.
I have shout out to everyone you're working with. I'm in my head being like, why haven't I connected you with certain people sooner? And we'll talk about that more off screen. I'd love to get any final thoughts. Guys, if you're enjoying this and you think that there was a lot of value right off the bat, please like and subscribe to Mobility Bros. We're going to make sure you have all of Dr. Stephen's information in the description, and he'll tell you where you can find him best. I'm really, really grateful for this conversation. Hey, Ron, do you have any finals you want to drop for us and let us know what you're thinking?
Yeah, Dr. Stephen, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time, and man, it's interesting. I've definitely had other folks when you start talking about the bands, I really wasn't clear about what you were talking about, and then as you went on, you said the BFR. I've had other folks present it to me, but they've never ever actually explained it. It was more of a sales pitch, if anything.
I call it ROR. I call it ROR because it makes you roar like a lion or lioness. And that's rapid oxygen reduction is what that stands for. And it's a different type of training, a different way training. It's all about creating the chemistry the brain's looking for, because it's what sends the command to the pituitary once it knows that chemistry is there. And it's according to the level of that chemistry, it will send the level of the signal to the pituitary to crank out the hormones. That's really the master gland for all of the endocrine glands, which produce all the hormones.
Awesome. But yeah, I humbly appreciate your time. Humbly appreciate the information that you get. I love this. I never thought I would be a science geek or into the, if you would have talked to me 10 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, that's cool. But it's just how you move on through life.
The best way that I've learned isn't all of the science. What it took for me is the 5-minute demo they gave me the first day of the first national conference. And right after I was done with that and feeling the burn, which is exactly what they told me I'd feel. And as soon as I took the bands off, the burn disappeared and I felt that energy.
That's awesome.
That's when Dr. Mike took me by the hand and signed me up as a founder in his company. And I got to do something, which I don't know if you're ready for. I just heard that they're going to cut off the founder's availability. They're getting rid of that position by the end of at the end of March. When March is done, there will be no more founder positions available. So I'm going to light a little bit of fire with that knowledge, because if anybody want to get involved with any way with that company, business wise, they want to take a look at it. It's a good time to get educated about it. There's never been a better time to get educated about it, further educated. Just consider this the beginning, and to experience it. Like they have and this might be a little salesy. They do a 30-day money back guarantee, but we know that it takes about 21 days to create a new habit. And we know what the results are. We've never seen anybody who's been using these even every other day. Within a week or two, the results are crazy. So 30 days is really overkill. We've never seen anybody give them back who's been using them. But yeah, as a coach, the coach, one of the greatest things a coach is for is an accountability partner. So it's good that people have you as a coach. The company offers it as part of their deal. When people get involved with them, they get an accountability partner, they get a coach that's not just an accountability partner. They're actually a real coach too. But if all they did is use them for an accountability partner, that's what makes or breaks most people from taking like New Year's resolutions and following through with them, is they just don't do enough within that 21-day period to create a new habit. That's all it takes. It takes 21 days to create a new habit. And I'm glad I pushed through that. I've been 20 months now experiencing the results, and I haven't let that habit disappear. I've done it at least every other day. So that's an average. I think it's a good average to stick to.
I'm excited about it. You know, I've been telling you I wanted to sign up for since I met you in Vegas and had my own experience. And so that I am going to follow through with that, because I'm committed to that. And I think that's going to help my clients and my members as well, especially the ones that are doing hybrid or only at-home training, and especially some of my senior clients that I've been really helping them avoid the heavy lifting and the overlifting and the overtraining, because I have clients that don't know what it means to take a rest day. And they're only getting older and the back pain's not going away. And I'm trying to help them understand mobility and flexibility and why breathing techniques and things are important. And if I can show them how they could just put these bands on and experience the burn and get the release and get the energy and get the hormones and get all the benefits basically of what this can bring, I think they will respect the rest day more, and they will start to feel their bodies and places heal where they thought it was just not going to heal, right? The lumps in the back and the neck pain and the lower back pain and the piriformis and the sciatica and all these things that are happening because of inflammation and because of lack of oxygen and because of the blood flow, we can reduce this. I have clients that have Achilles pain and they have these bone spurs growing and all these different things are happening to their body and they don't know why. And they're talking about shaving things off and all this stuff. So, you know,
they're going to get better sleep. These are common things being reported, especially people who have struggled with getting the deep sleep in the night, waking up in the morning easier. The list just goes on and on and on. We know how important sleep is for regeneration. That alone, the people with Fitbits, I had there's a lady who was only getting a few minutes of deep sleep per night. And within the first session, that went up to like over 30 minutes that first night.
Wow.
She never got.
I can use it for myself. Let me be straight and frank. It has been a challenging 3 years. I have put down and invested more money in myself and business acceleration to get the doors open to meet people like you than I have ever thought I would. And I'm in a place right now where I know my business is in a catalyst where it's going to grow. We're on our 12th podcast. And we didn't know if we were going to make it past 5. And I just heard a statistic that most fail at 8. I have committed clients and I have opportunities and I need to show up in my best way. And so, yes, unselfishly, I want to help everyone, but I'm going to be selfish and say, I know I need to help myself.
You help yourself first to help anybody else.
I got to put the oxygen mask on myself before I can help anyone else. Right. And I'm in a place where the stress levels the investments, the belief systems have to be doubled down on. And so
Yes.
taking on
stress is a big killer. You know, that cortisol again blocks HGH and everything connected to it. Some people with head injuries big enough can create enough cortisol to shut down HGH production forever, just right off. And this technology, I've seen some of the same people that were disabled, only able to do 1 or 2 light tasks around the house and then being wiped out the rest of the day. I've seen some of the same people within the first session on these bands. It just like wakes them right up. And like literal miracles happening. It's like a reverse domino effect. So if you're one of those people who has been fight or flight, who has been struggling through the stresses of our economy, has been a big part of that, especially for men. This is a major game changer for us. And there's a lot of things, there's a lot of ways that we can literally measure that ourselves. So it's exciting. We can now actually go do it all over again, show ourselves what we're really made out of all over again. And we can do it without hurting ourselves.
Now is the time, guys. It is February 2023. The world is reopened to you. Your mind, your belief, your willingness to change, make new habits, double down on the habits you believe in, lean forward into your belief system. Now is the time. We really, really appreciate you guys spending all this time with us today. Your time is valuable to us, and it means everything that you took the time to listen, like, subscribe, share with a friend. Go down in the descriptions below, get the information. You're going to get Dr. Stephen's website where you can look at all of the stuff, him, his father, the amazing people they've done, the amazing people they've helped, and what they've done for humanity, as well as my man Ron and me and our information below. Hey, Ron, you know what time it is, man. Take us away.
All right, I want you to stay awesome, keep stepping into greatness, and be legendary. Have a great day, everyone. Like, subscribe, share, and show your love. Peace out.